Greetings, folks. Thank you for you all for getting on the stream tonight. Appreciate you as always. As you come into the building, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, so that we can get this message out. I will tell you, folks, this is how you support the stream. Shout out to all my new subscribers on YouTube. Shout out for all of those of you that are watching and viewing this particular live stream via Facebook. Shout out to you. Facebook is a different format, so as you make your comments, please put your name next to your comment. That way I can acknowledge you for your comment. If you wish to support the channel, you can support the channel again by hitting the subscribe button, the share button, and also you can support the channel via Cash App, $ capital C, capital G, 4033. And with that being said, let's get right into it, man. Shout out to Motha Goose, aka Alicia. Good evening, my sister. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Shout out to you. This is a very serious subject. For those of you that can hear me, put a 1 in the chat box if you can hear me well. If I need to turn the music down, whatever you think I need to do, let your brother know by putting a number 1 in the chat room to let me know what I need to do. If everything's good, let's get to it. So put a 1 in the chat room if I need to do something different. I appreciate you. Going once, going twice. All right, it must be good then. Again, I thank you all for getting on the stream tonight. We're going to get into a subject that's what I found has become very controversial, folks. Very controversial indeed. And yet, the victims of the subject of which I will talk about tonight. Okay, thank you, Martha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I don't want to butcher your name, but I thank you for that. All right, let's fix that. How was that now? Okay, thank you. I appreciate you for saying that. Good evening. Shout out to Gail. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Okay. All right, let's get right into it, man. Hopefully the sound and everything is good. We're gonna get into all right. Thank you, Martha. Appreciate you. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate you. See, that's why you gotta have people listening, because how I hear it from my end is not the way you guys hear it. So I appreciate you for that. We're going to get into, again, a subject tonight that's I found to be very, very controversial. It's really sad that it's become so controversial, because what I found to be true is that the victims of the subject I'm going to discuss tonight is men. And I mean, this crosses color lines. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. I mean, we know as black people that many of us as black men, we suffer this. We fall under this kind of facade, this kind of fraud, this kind of lie. We fall under it, and we fall victim to it, and we fell victim to it for a very long time. You'll be surprised how long this kind of thing has gone on. It's gone on for a very long time. The beginnings of it took place in the early to mid 50s. But again, back then there was no way to gauge this kind of fraud, because there was no DNA testing. There was nothing that could prove anything. And the subject tonight is fraternity fraud. The hustle is over, part 2. And to my sad regret, this facade, this fraud, this lie has benefited a lot of women in general, black women in particular, who have had this kind of mindset to create a lie surrounding a child that she found herself pregnant with, and then put that responsibility on a man who she perhaps knew from the very beginning was not the father. Very, very, very diabolical, very wicked, very evil thing to do. But yet it's gone on so much, and it's gone on in large part undetected by the general public. I'm talking about those that have not been guilty of doing such. It's gone undetected. A lot of people don't even realize how big this fraud is. What I intend to do tonight is to educate you on just how big this problem really is. It's bigger than you realize. And many of you may have brothers, you may have uncles, you may have family members, or perhaps it may be even you, brothers, men. It may be you that have found yourself victim of this same kind of fraud, of this same kind of facade, the same kind of lie that have landed many men in prison right now who've suffered the loss of their driver's license. Because again, things happen. You got a job, you lose it, you get fired, you get laid off. You know, these are the things that happen with us as black people, but these are things certainly that happen with us as black men. You know the old scenario: first hired, first fired. Last hired, first fired. You know the old saying. So a lot of men are doing time in prison right now. They're doing time in jail as a result of some of these misfortunes, and they've lost their license, all behind a lie. Many men have taken care of children all the way up until their adulthood. They've financed their college education. They've financed their private school education. They've financed their clothing and their food throughout their entire life as they were growing up into adulthood, only to find later on in life that same child that they took care of was not theirs. And for you ladies that hear this stream, I know many of you know someone who's guilty of this. You know someone who's guilty of doing this. And you know someone who's guilty right now as I speak that's doing this. And to my sad regret, again, like I've always said in other streams, a lot of bad behavior, a lot of wicked behavior that is done on behalf of women and black women in particular is a lot of times covered up, overshadowed, or it's given an excuse by women who share their reflection. In large part, sadly, women do not hold each other accountable for bad behavior. Now, so many things that are done in this country that if a man were to do it, he would be ostracized, canceled. Oh man, the barrage of attacks that he would receive is unexplainable. But yet, a lot of things that go on in this country that are wrong, that are wicked, that are deceptive, a lot of times women get to do it with no recourse of action. So we're going to get right into it tonight on this subject, on this very, very important subject of fraternity fraud. And shout out to Tennessee for pushing to pass this bill, House Bill 2698, which in fact would make fraternity fraud illegal. Oh, no doubt. It would make it illegal, and it would make those women who are responsible for such not only responsible financially, but they would face prosecution. They would face prosecution. And sadly, no one wants to see a child pushed into the system. No, I certainly don't. Personally, I do not want to see that. However, it wouldn't be my fault, and it certainly wouldn't be any other man's fault if that were to happen, because this kind of fraud has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed aggressively, and it has to be addressed now. Fraud in and of itself on the books in the United States, just fraud alone, anything over $5,000 in fraud, you could face up to 14 years in prison. Ladies, I want to ask you a question. If you were to be judged in a court according to this particular type of fraud known as fraternity fraud, if $5,000 in regular fraud could get you up to 14 years, how many years do you think you or others that you know would get if they were found guilty of deliberately putting the responsibility on a man to care for a child that did not belong to him, and in many cases receiving social service and government assistance and even monetary gain as a result of this lie? How many years do you believe she should get? That's just food for thought. First, let's go into what is fraternity fraud. First of all, misattributed paternity can be devastating, and we know that. We know that. It can be devastating for men who have spent years believing they are the biological father of the child, only later to learn that they actually share no DNA paternity at all with this child. There's an immense emotional pain that goes along with that kind of deception. It affects the biological father, who perhaps doesn't even know he is the father. He may not even know. And because in a lot of cases, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is, if a woman has a child or finds herself pregnant by a man, who she knows is no good. She knows he's no good. She knows that the only thing he can provide is what's called sexual bliss and emotional turmoil. Then she finds the other guy, the nice guy, the guy who's more responsible, the guy who's more respectful, the guy who knows in his character and behavior how to treat a woman, She finds this guy. This is not who she is really particularly attracted to, but she knows he's the better choice. She knows he's the better choice. And as a result of making what she believes is the better choice, she makes him to believe that the child she's carrying is his. And because he cares for her, and the other guy could care less, because all he was looking for was a booty call. But the good guy, he cares for her. He actually gives a damn about her. She knows this. And he seems to be the better choice. So she'll put the responsibility on him as the father, and he'll accept it because he wants to accept it, because he cares for her, only to find again later that the child is not his. Now, some of you may say, well, why would a man even ask for a DNA test if he cares for her? Good question. But a question that can be answered. I would flip that question and ask this to you ladies. Why would you ask a man for a test to see if he's HIV positive? Why would you ask? Why would you ask for a man to be tested to see if he carries any kind of sexually transmitted disease? Why would you ask? Why would you ask? Understand this, that every human being has a right to ask for whatever they need to ask for to protect themselves. I find it very strange and interesting that if a man asks for a DNA test, he is somehow looked at and demonized for asking the question. Now, I don't think that's fair. And many of you ladies who watch my stream, if you are a good woman, you will admit that it's not fair. For those of you that watch my stream, if you're guilty of doing this, I'm sure you'll have a problem with what I'm going to say tonight. For you, I need you to just stick in there and listen. Or you can log off. Because here's the thing. Too many men are suffering under this kind of fraud. Too many men. Once the truth is revealed, understand this. It is rarely a simple matter. There's nothing simple about this once the truth is revealed. There's nothing simple about it. Why? Because to be reimbursed, understand this, to be reimbursed for all of the money spent, right? All the payments that were given by way of the man or by way of government. Herein where lies the problem. Herein where lies the problem. In hearing what makes it illegal. With child support, let's take this for example. When a man is paying child support, he's paying child support to repay back the state for what the mother is receiving in government subsidies. In most cases, this is what he's doing. This is what he's doing. And as a result, the government gets a kickback in fees for every child support payment that is made. And when he misses child support, or he decides, you know what, I'm not going to pay another dime in child support, what happens? What does the government do? What does the state do? The state moves swiftly to bring that man back into court to see if they can come to some kind of agreement as to how he's going to pay. If he cannot pay and does not pay, he then finds himself behind bars. What more should a woman receive as a consequence for such a lie, when in fact paternity fraud causes a man to take care of a child for 20 plus years, and if that child decides to go to college, he pays even longer. But yet no consequence should be had for paternity fraud? Really? No consequence should be had for paternity fraud. You would be surprised at some of the conversations that I've had since this bill has hit the table in Tennessee. Now it's on the floor in Michigan, and it's on the floor in Florida, and it's on the floor in many other states, because now they're contemplating over the idea of making this an illegal crime. Currently in the United States, paternity fraud is not illegal. Go figure. Go figure, man. Go figure that you could lie on someone, extract resources from this individual, and in fact, extract resources from government at the expense of the taxpayers' dollars. You can do this, and it's not even considered a crime. Can you believe this? What kind of ridiculous law is this? Because currently, right now, if a woman finds herself pregnant, a man, all he has to do is sign what's called the VAP. That's a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Once he signs it, essentially he's claiming paternal rights to that child with no proof. With no proof. And for far too long, a man's emotions and a man's affection for the woman perhaps that may be having his child. I'm not talking about Pookie, because you know he don't care. I'm not talking about Nug Nug, and I'm not talking about Killer Mike, but I'm talking about the brother who actually cares about the woman who's carrying what he believes is his child. I'm talking about him. He cares nothing for getting proof. In fact, he's made to feel guilty within himself. If no one even says it to him, within himself, even if his first mind says that there may be some doubt as to whether this child belongs to him, he will refuse to get the proof necessary to substantiate those doubts or to confirm those doubts or to dismiss those doubts. He won't get the proof, all based on his affection, all based on his concern and care for that particular woman. And sadly, she may know he's not the father. That's the saddest part about all of it. That's really the saddest part about all of it. What is fraternity fraud? Fraternity fraud occurs when the mother of a child misidentifies. And I say misidentifies very loosely because whenever you say miss, that's like saying mistake. No, she didn't misidentify. A lot of cases, because she's had multiple partners while in a relationship with that man, that's the only way she can misidentify anything. Ladies, be honest with yourself. If you are with one person, if you only have one sexual partner, there is no way for you to misidentify anything. But if you have multiple sex partners, multiple men that you're sleeping with, then I can understand you misidentifying. And many of you, I'm sure you remember what was the show that used to come on television? There was a show that used to come on and it used to highlight these kind of really reckless, dysfunctional situations. Somebody put it in the chat room what I'm talking about. What's that show? I believe the host, he passed away recently. Jerry Springer, The Maury Show. That's right. The Maury Show. Jerry Springer was another one. You remember these shows, guys. I know you remember watching these shows where it said, you are not the father. You are not the father. How many shows you saw like that where the woman was on the panel? They brought up 3 or 4 different guys and tested all of them and found out all 3 or 4 of them on the panel was not the father. And then she ran off the stage crying. This is nothing new. This is an old thing, man. Old thing. And you would be surprised. It's not just limited to the United States. It's certainly not just limited to the black community. This goes on in so many different countries. I did my research. It's in Switzerland. It's in Canada. It's in the UK. It's in Africa. It's going big in Nigeria. This is huge, man. Women are really playing this game for real. Like really. And that's because there's no recourse of action. There's no consequence for this. There's no consequence. No woman goes to jail for this. You know, and this is a problem. This is a problem. You know, I'm gonna tell you how big this problem is, folks. It's bigger than you think. It's really bigger than you think. It's more than just a few people talking about it. It's just that recently this has hit the floor in Tennessee. That's why it's now being discussed all over social media. Now it's becoming a subject. And I'm very excited about this law. I really am. I'm very excited. Because any woman that plays this kind of game, while men currently, as I speak, are doing time in prison, I want to see you prosecuted for this. I really do. I don't have any compassion for a woman that does this. Not at all. You should go to jail. No doubt. You should go to jail. And what this law will do, it will force women to keep their legs closed. This is what it's going to do. It's going to force women to actually take serious the role that they play in the world, and that is access to their body and childbirth. They will begin to take serious the 2 things I just mentioned. And not anyone and everyone will be able to gain access to her body. And she will be very careful about childbirth if this becomes law. Because now, if she's not sure, if she is playing some type of game, she could face prosecution. How big is this? 3 out of 10 men who perform a legal paternity test are found not to be the biological father of the child. Did you hear what I just said? 3 out of 10. Even if you take a conservative estimate of those numbers, there is likely somewhere between 5.3 to 7.7 million who have become victims of this type of fraud. We're talking about 1 million men tested annually. We're talking about at least, that's a little over the top. Let me be more conservative with that number. We're talking about at least 500,000, 500,000 men who are tested annually. And we're only talking about men who are voluntarily tested annually. 30%. Listen, 30% of 500,000 men that are tested annually are found not to be the biological father. And this is not something that men should take serious? No? Well, let me ask you a question. If you found that 30% of the population was being infected by some disease, would you become alarmed? If you found that 30% of the population was dying from something specific, would you be alarmed? Think about 30% of anything. Would you become alarmed by that 30%? This is a serious, serious situation that needs to be looked at and addressed and taken seriously, no doubt. Brothers, some of you right now, brothers, men, some of you right now under the sound of my voice, you're taking care of children currently that do not belong to you, but you think you are the biological father. And I'll tell you, I feel for you, man. I feel for you. Will you go get a DNA test now? Or will you wait for something tragic to take place within the relationship, such as someone becoming so ill or so sick, one of your children that you believe is yours, where it will require something of you, like blood or like a kidney or some body part, in which they have to test you now to find out whether you are in fact compatible with this child, be it a son or be it a daughter, that you can donate said blood or said kidney or said body part. Why wait that long? For those of you that are early in the game, brothers, I'm telling you, you better get your DNA test right now. Oh yeah, you better get your DNA test right now. Right now. Because it's not even worth the time or the risk, and it's not worth the emotional turmoil that you will experience in finding out later that this child does not belong to you. And for you ladies that do this, and for those of you that are currently right now under the sound of my voice that know you're guilty of this, you're not thinking about your children. Oh no, you're not thinking about your children at all, because you're not thinking about the fact that this child is going to be bonded to this father that believes that child belongs to him, only to find that that father is not their biological father. Do you know how devastating that is to a child when he or she finds out that information and then finds out that you lied? All you did was make your child hate you. There's no way to recover from that kind of lie. How do you recover? What will you say to that child in the event that your lie is uncovered and discovered? What will you say? What will be your alibi? What will be your alibi? That you were young? That you were dumb? That won't work with this one. That excuse won't work with this one. You will have to explain the unexplainable. You will have to try your best to explain the unexplainable. That's really sad. It's really, really sad. 1/3 of all signatures on the birth certificate do not reflect the father's name. DNA testing, understand what this will do. If in fact this becomes law, And again, I pray that it does. If this becomes law, it will increase the numbers that I just currently mentioned. If 30% out of 500,000 are found not to be the father by way of voluntary DNA testing, how high do you think that number will reach if in fact it becomes law that a man has to get a DNA test before signing the birth certificate? That number is going to skyrocket. It's going to skyrocket so far with numbers that you can't even count. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And also, under this law, if you have a one-night stand, you know those one-night stands that after you leave the club, you know those one-night stands that happen after you leave the party, those one-night stands, you know what I'm talking about. Even if you find yourself pregnant after a one-night stand, according to this law, the father will not have to pay child support for that child. He won't have to pay child support. And some of you are saying, I know what you're saying now. You're going to say, well, if he's a real man, he would take care of the child once he knows it's his. Perhaps. But if he doesn't, do you take any accountability for the fact that you slept with a man that you didn't even know, called a one-night stand? Do you take responsibility for your reckless decision in sleeping with a man right after the club or right after the party? This is big. And I will tell you, it's bigger than you believe and bigger than you even understand. They have a thing, and I took some notes to talk about this because it's that big, you know. Again, I mentioned to you before, you got, how many of you understand an organization called the Department of Human Services? This is the department. Every state has a DHS, Department of Human Services. They deal with children and paternity and all that sort of thing. Well, $52 million in funding is received from the federal government for simply child support alone. Now, I want you to follow me so you'll see how these two things come together. $52 million in government funding is received for child support. In addition to the Department of Human Services potentially receiving millions more on top of that 52 million for reaching a quota of 90% acknowledgement births. Did you hear what I just said? The Department of Human Services, they receive an additional amount of money on top of the 52 million that is funded by the government for child support if it reaches a quota of 90% acknowledgement of births. What did I tell you that the man had to sign today, currently on the books, when a child is born? He has to sign something called a VAP, which is a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. So with that signature, and every signature going forward, it all adds up to a quota that they're looking for. And if they reach up to 90% acknowledgement of births, they exceed the quota and they receive more money. You understand what this is? There's a whole lot of reasons that the government won't make this illegal. Why there will be pushback for this kind of law. Too much money is being made, not just on behalf of the mother, no, in terms of what she receives from government. No, not that. No, a lot of money is being made by way of the government itself as a result of this lie and what follows behind it. Understand that. 33% of real biological fathers whose children have been stolen from them through the voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, they never even get to take care of their children. And I said stolen. You hear what I said? I said 33% of the real biological fathers whose children have been stolen from them under this lie of paternity fraud. Again, I said there are many men who don't even know they have children, that the woman they were with even became pregnant by them, because once she realizes she's pregnant, in many cases, she's already broken up with the man that biologically made her pregnant. So the new guy, you men, you become the new victim. You become the new father of the child. Now, this lie can't stick until she sleeps with you first. She break up with the guy on Monday. By Friday, you and her are together intimately. And guess what? 2 weeks later, she tells you she's pregnant. And you don't even realize that she was pregnant 4 weeks before she told you. You didn't know that part. And you won't do a timeline check to determine that it's a lie. You won't do it. You'll believe it. This is what happens to many of us. This is what has happened to many men, not just in the United States. As I mentioned earlier, it's all over the country. It's in Switzerland, and it's becoming a huge problem in Nigeria right now, in Africa. It's all over the UK and Canada. It's all over the world, this problem. Women in general are doing this all over the world because there's no recourse of action. There's no penalty. And that is a problem. That is a problem. I will say this, man. I will say this to ladies. With all of what we see in social media, all of what we see throughout social media and on television, and how women are betrayed, and how women betray themselves in terms of their conduct and attitude and behavior. You've heard me mention that 80% of all divorces are filed by women, Black women in particular, and of that same number, engagements are called off. You got OnlyFans, you got Instagram, and you got women the likes of Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B, and this whole image. Now add this problem that I'm bringing up tonight, this subject I'm discussing tonight. And I will ask you a question, ladies. Do you believe, going forward into the future, that a man is going to take you serious on any level outside of the bedroom? Will he take you serious for a wife? Is that even possible with the modern woman today? Will he take you serious for a serious individual that he should introduce to his mother, that he should introduce to his family members that he respects, and someone that he should introduce to his colleagues at his job or his profession without the fear of being embarrassed? When you look at all of this that I've talked about tonight, in addition to what I mentioned just now, with how many of you ladies are allowing yourselves to be portrayed, and you won't correct one another in bad behavior. Instead, you let it go. You let it just go on as it is, and then attack any man that has a feeling or an opinion about that bad behavior. Do you believe, going forward into the future, that it will spell success for you as it relates to real relationships, or a man taking you serious? I mean, taking you serious, ladies. I'm not talking about taking you to bed, because he's serious about taking you to bed. I promise you that. But do you believe you'll find in the future a man taking you serious for real relationships? To become a wife. To become a wife. You know, I talk to a lot of ladies all the time, and many of them say to me, Charles, I can get any man I want. Any man I want. I say, yeah, okay. Well, can you get any man to keep you? You know, if I go to the store and purchase something from the store and wear it, you know how some of you ladies go buy a dress and you only want to wear it for the night because you're going to the club, and you keep the tag and you tuck the tag inside only to return the dress right after the club is over or the very next day? That's what's happening today. No one's keeping the modern woman. She's being picked up and she's being returned, but no one's keeping her. What I've said in many streams in the past, I've talked about dating. Dating is what brings about childbirth in many cases, because the only thing that dating means is sex. It means sex. That's all dating means. So I will tell you, ladies, I will tell you, there's nothing to brag about in saying that I date. No. Because dating in times past was a prelude to men to determine whether this woman, and for her to determine whether this man was marriage material, so they can go forward into the future and build family. That's what dating was all about. But today, all dating is today. It's a prelude to sex. That's all it is. It's a prelude to sex. We date, we eat a little bit, we have a couple of drinks, and the only thing that's on that man's mind during the whole date, he's already visualized you butt naked. He sees what you don't have on while you're sitting in front of him at that table. He already visualized it. He visualized it when he walked up to your door. He visualized it when you were walking to the table to sit down. You already been stripped butt naked. That's what your date is. So the dating is nothing to brag about. What really counts is how many men are keeping you. And as we can see, this pandemic, this problem, this real issue of paternity fraud could easily be eliminated if women became women, and then men could become better. Because here's the thing. Some women, I was talking to a young lady the other day. She said to me, she said, well, you know, you talk about all the things, all the negative things about women. She acted as if the whole conversation was an attack on what was not true. You see the lack of accountability? She talked as if the conversations is all about something that's not true. If it wasn't true, the conversations couldn't exist. But it is true. It is true. There are no wives, not today. Not in this modern day time, there are no wives. Period. There are no wives. And you can barely find a good woman that you can classify as a wife. Very, very, very few. The ones that are qualified like that are so far few and in between. It's like looking for a needle in a field of haystacks. This is why something like this can exist. This is why something like this can exist. It's the deterioration of the character and the integrity of women that something like this could even exist. And then yet the same women want to find a man that they would say would be good. So the standard, the modern woman, she wants a traditional husband. Yeah, she wants a traditional husband with all the trappings of modern narrative mentality. That's what she wants. She don't want a real traditional husband. She wants a traditional husband with all the trappings of modern mentality, which will allow her the freedom to do what she pleases, whenever she pleases, and live her own truth. Absent of what real relationships mean. Absence of what real marriage means. And this in lies the problem. This is why these kind of issues exist. This is why 30% of all men tested, DNA tested, are found not to be the biological father. Ladies, if men determine relationships and marriage, and you determine access to your body and childbirth, how could you allow something like this to happen with you? When you are the only ones in control of something like this, you are the gatekeepers to sex. No man can take sex from you, lest he find himself guilty of a crime called rape. And then he goes to jail. He's incarcerated for a crime. And I believe any man that does that should go to prison. If you're going to take it from a woman, you should go to prison, no doubt. But ladies, if he didn't take it, how many men are you voluntarily giving access to your body? To the point where you don't even know who the father is. And then you just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a fool by his toe, and he becomes the father. Only to find later that he's not the father. So I say shout out to Tennessee with House Bill 2698. I pray that this bill becomes law, not just in Tennessee, but I pray that this bill becomes law in all 50 plus states, and then it begins to spread abroad. The same way this cancer of paternity fraud has spread abroad into every country, I pray that this law spreads the same way this lie has spread. And it begins to make women who play this game of paternity fraud accountable. The hustle is over. Paternity fraud. It's about time that this kind of very emotionally painful situation where men are concerned, very emotionally painful, and not only for the man, but so emotionally devastating for the children who later find out that their mother lied to them. Man, that their mother lied to them and told them that this man was their father. Very sad, man. Very sad. Very sad. So again, shout out to Tennessee for House Bill 2698. Men, protect yourself, be careful. Protect yourself and be careful. Stop leading with what's between your legs, man. I'm going to say it straight. Stop leading with what's between your legs, brothers. Lead with your head. Lead with your brain. Think. Think. That way you can avoid yourself getting caught up in the sling of fraternity fraud. You can avoid yourself getting caught up in this sling that has caught so many men of every nationality. All right? I thank all of you for getting on the stream tonight. I want to give some shout outs before I close. I want to read some comments. Let me see. Shout out to Martha Goose, aka Alicia. Shout out to you. Thank you for assisting me in the very beginning. Shout out to Margaret. Shout out to you. Love you. Love you, Mom. Shout out to those of you that assisted me in figuring out who this daytime show was. Jerry Springer and the Maury Show. I know you remember that. And shout out to all of you. Someone said, wow, speak truth. Let's talk about it. I'm not sure who that is. Facebook does not have the ability of showing me your name. And someone said, this is very serious, ladies and men. May God's blessings pour upon the children and help the moms and dads in this. Very sad. Absolutely, it's very sad. Very, very sad indeed. But, you know, to my sad regret, a lot of women are fighting this law, fighting and they're giving a lot of pushback about this kind of law, and it makes you wonder why. You know, there's an old saying that only a hit dog barks. So it makes you know how many women or how many individuals are guilty of such a thing, because those are the ones that's arguing about the bill being passed. That's the funny thing. And yet the ones who suffer under this particular crime, I'm going to call it a crime, are men. So again, with that being said, I thank all of you getting on the stream tonight. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit the share button. Be sure to hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time I upload or go live. And shout out to all my new subscribers. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel by subscribing. Also, you can support the channel by way of Cash App, $, capital C, capital G, 4033. With that being said, I am your host, Charles Chandler, for another stream of Let's Talk About It Now. With that, we are out. Have a good night, folks. Have a good night, folks.